Hello, today I'm going to look at a game from 1982 from Fantasy Games Unlimited, Star Explorer. It's obviously got the look of definitely, Star Trek inspired and maybe a little bit uncomfortably close to actual looking like Star Trek based on the uniforms, and looks like the expendable guys might actually also have red shirts. The ship looks very similar, of course, but it wasn't licensed by Star Trek, so I'll kind of view it as its own thing, even though obviously it's got definitely inspired to say the least. I always like this kind of art where it's definitely 70s, early 80s. Not Photoshop, just real from the time. Looks like a expedition team on the surface, a couple ones, interstellar travel going on. It's interesting because it's got the spaceship travel component, and then you also have crews going planets to different planets to explore. So it's definitely got the exploration aspect that was, obviously consistent with the original series. And it came out in 1982, quite a bit after the original series was wrapped up. I'm not quite sure what to expect of it, but we'll kind of dive in here and see how it goes. Some descriptions on the side as well. More description on the back. This game of exploration and confrontation, you play the role of the captain of the starship of the Federation. You are on the mission to explore several new worlds. They kind of gave away a little bit here because in the rules they talk about they're in the Confederation, but they kind of maybe did a Freudian slip here where they say the Federation. So it kind of hints at the Star Trek aspect as well, of course. On the way, your starship may encounter the hazards of space. You may be called upon to perform your secondary mission of keeping the star lanes free of pirates. Although an uneasy truce exists with the Zangid Empire, each encounter with one of their vessels is potentially explosive. Once reached your planet, your crew teams must be assigned to explore it. They must face its dangers and solve its mysteries. Before you begin your voyage, you must decide how your ship will be equipped. You must also choose your crew from the available manpower, then set out on your exploration mission. So it's neat. It's got, planet exploration as well as, space, potential combat, and movement, configuring ships, choosing teams. So it's got a lot going. It is interesting that it doesn't. I know there's there's Star Trek The Adventure game out there which has some space exploration and planetary exploration teams, etc. But that's like paragraph based, and this one isn't. This is pure dice rolling, so I'm curious how it plays out. It can be played for as many as 4 players, and also can be easily designed to be played solitaire as well, so that's a plus. It's by Leonard H. Canterman and Douglas Bonfort. Box cover illustration Bob Charette. Interior illustrations Jeff D. Graphics Bob Charette. And actually the box, it's a pretty big box. It doesn't actually need to be this big. It could be half the size. I think it'd be better. It was actually more the size of like a Task Force game, box game, because it's probably twice as thick as it needs to be to contain the components. Rulebook, 16 pages, black and white. It's always fun when they have these old price lists. It's a price list from Fantasy Games Unlimited. So the game actually sold for $15 at the time. I was lucky to maybe get mine like below 50, so I guess I did it right. And there's a Star Explorer ship log sheet. It's a pad of these where you mark your engines, teleporter, shields, beams, missiles. Kind of configure your ship and the crew, different choices, and the captain's bonus, fuel stores. On the reverse side of the Star Explorer ship's log sheet, there's the planet log sheet, where you have the planet ID, the environment encounters, and then you have the turn, speed, destination, planet, victory points, and the major events. It's got 266 Dica counters, one-sided, quite a good mix, and it doesn't come with a tray, but a GMT tray fits perfectly in the box, so I always like to use GMT trays when they don't have one. The counters themselves are, I decided to round off the edges on mine with a clipper. It just seems they look a little bit better that way in my opinion, but personal preference. A few dice. Got a couple nice looking, black D6s. And it's got this tiny D20 for rolls for 1 to 10, and also as a D20. And it talks in there, like, showing its age. It says, you can use a crayon and color them in or something. Just for ease of play, I'm just going to use just a regular D20 I happen to have around. 4 different colors with different players, and then, white and black, neutral colors. Here's unique counters. Asteroid belt, gravity well, cloud, radiation storm. These are, space events. Different planet markers. These are fleet service battle cruisers for the 4 different players. And part of this is configuring which ship's crew you have and which ones go on missions. So there's navigation, which helps avoid hazards of space during interstellar movement, and is an escape from unfavorable space combat situations. It's this one. Military, it's planetary exploration team. They are basically the red shirts. Damage control, that's for damage incurred after space combat encounters. Geology, planetary exploration team that improve the chance of successfully resolving geological encounters. Fuel engineering, planetary exploration team that improves the chance of finding fuel and prospecting. Botany, planetary exploration team that helps resolve plant encounters. Animal physiology, planetary exploration team that helps resolve animal encounters. Sentient contact, planetary exploration team that helps resolve encounters with sentient creatures. Medical, planetary exploration team that helps cure diseases. Fire control, improves the chances of hitting an opposing vessel during space combat with both missile and beam weapons. So they're for the 4 different player colors. Here's a map. It's 17 by 22. It's got some handy reference charts, although in the rules there's a lot of reference charts. So this is only a subset of them, and that's one thing I'll be trying to figure out is how well that works out. But you have the environment table, critical hits table, speed energy cost, mission charts table, space encounter table, planetary encounter tables. Then you have the space combat display where you have the enemy ship start positions, and beams and missile indicators. You have planetary display over here for the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th encounters for players 1 through 4. And this is the map where you place planets and ships. And obviously the color choice is an interesting one. You don't think of space as being green unless you're maybe in a nebula or something, which they're generally not. In the center is a space station. It's got randomized directional indicators here. I suppose for the color choice, maybe they were limited by the options they had in that time of maybe they had to use kind of one of these colors or something. I'm not sure why they go with green, but there's probably some rationale. And actually I put these on here just to show the contrast. And actually it works okay with the contrast of the different ships. So it looks alright. It's a shame it's not something, like maybe a gray would have been better or something. Because the artwork's, the space station's kind of nice. That'd be nice if that was kind of more catching the feeling being space, but it's all abstract anyway. So on the game map, each of these hexes is 1 light year across. It's interesting how they do the planetary movement versus combat movement. So combat movement, this up here tracks the distance between the different vessels. You do it up here instead of moving their ships around here, which is kind of an interesting abstract way of doing it to show how they kind of close in. Each box up here represents 50,000 kilometers, so the 10 would be 500,000. Can the setup and play here? First of all, setup. So yeah, as you saw in the rules, there's a lot of charts, and there's some that are here on the map, but that's only about a third of them. So just for ease of play, I took copy the charts out of the book and just put them on pages here. As you can see, there's 3 full pages of charts. So there's a lot going on there. And if you don't copy the ones that are already on the board, you can just get away with 2 pages. But They're actually easier to read if it's black and white instead of the black on the green, so I just copied all of them here. So I'll be referencing those. Otherwise you'd have to be going through the book and doing that, which wouldn't be a lot of fun. I'm just going to be doing I'll be doing solitaire. So I pick out ship, I'll be putting it right in the starbase there. Then you figure out where the planets are. There's going to be 4 planets. Figure out the direction, and there's the direction indicator here, 1 to 6. 6. Then you figure out the distance. You roll the d6 and add 5 to that. So he's out 8. 1, 2. That's the first planet. Next planet. 3. That's the direction. And then the distance. 4 plus 5 or 9. That planet. Next. Direction 2. 3 plus 5 or 8. Last planet. Direction 6 again. 1 plus 5 or 6. Kind of close to that other planet, but it's on the same hex, so we're alright. So there's the 4 planets. And then here's the planet information. For the planet ID, I just refer to the direction and location along that for them. So for instance, this would be 6-8, 6-6, and then 2-8 and 3-9, just from its direction and location hexes. Because unfortunately on this hex, it doesn't have numbers, so you can do that at work. So I'll call it alpha, so 6-8 alpha, 6-6 beta, 2-8 delta, and 3-9 gamma. And then you don't have to, but you can look at what the environments are. And again, for all the times when I do a D10 or D20, instead of using this tiny little dice, I'll be using just a regular dice. For the planet environment types, here's this environment table for a 1d10. 4 is a desert for alpha. The optional rule is that for the planet with the assigned initial mission, you can say what that environment is, and then so I'll be going with that, and turns out it's desert based on the roll. Since there's one player, there's one planet that has an initial mission, which is on alpha, and we'll determine what that is by referencing the mission chart table here. All these the environments for the other planets you'll discover as you land on them. 14, investigation plant encounter. Then you set up your ship and crew. The standard ship class is a battle cruiser, which I'll be using. For the name, I'll choose the Norway, and bonus points if you can figure out what novel that's from. So the standard ship has 6 engines, 6 teleporters, 3 shields, 1 beam, and 1 missile. And the crew, you need a total of 25. 7 of those have to be military, and then you have to have 1 of each of these. So I have 2 of each of these, and then the 7 of the military to make up the 25. Then you can have 5 more resource points that you can do to add here. And also you have initial 100 fuel stores and maximum damage of 100. So the 5 you can use to add to either the 5 additional resource points you can use to add to your systems, your damage, your fuel stores, or your crew. And for each one of those you can add 25 armor points. So I want to have more armor, so I'm going to beef it up from 100 to 150. And then I'll add more. So I have 3 more to use. I'll add another beam, another missile, then I have 1 more to go. I'll add 1 more shield. So that's the total of the 5 resource points. Get into play here. First of all, you have to decide if you're going to do interstellar movement or planetary efforts. It's not on a planet yet, so I'll be doing interstellar movement. You choose your decide the speed you're going to go. He's going to be going speed 4, which costs 7 energy cost. You have to mark off the energy cost. So now I'm down to 93. Move, and then each hex you move into, you roll to see if there's an encounter. On a 6 you get an encounter. Nope. Nope. 6 encounter. Then we'll see what the encounter is. Plus encounter table. On a 1d20. 8. Radiation storm. Since there's a radiation storm, he's got a potential of losing crew due to radiation sickness. Put a radiation storm marker there, and any other crew that passes through there will have to deal with that as well. We'll have to roll 1d10 to see how many crew you lose, but first of all, you can activate your shields up to 1 energy for 1 energy unit per shield. And I'll do that. I got 4 shields, so I'll activate all 4 of those. And these markers up here, I'm just using these markers for indicating the the maximum levels that the different subsystems are at. So I'll mark down 4, down to 89 energy units now. Before you roll the die roll 2, you can, and for the die roll 2, you can subtract 1 for each damage control team on the crew, and I have 2 damage control teams, so I can subtract 6 from my roll. Well, it's good I chose a high number because I ended up taking 10 hits, so even though I had 4 shields up and 2 damage control at 6, I still lose 4 crew. Guess I get to choose which ones. I have a couple red shirts take some damage, so go from military from 7 down to 5. It's hard to choose. I'll lose 1 animal physiology and 1 geology. So quite a hit there. So the way crew losses work, you roll a 1d6, and on a 1 they're eliminated from the game, but on a 2 to 6 they're incapacitated and you can't use them for that number of turns. So we'll do the 2 military. 2. He's incapacitated 2, and I'll indicate that by putting him up here, and then in each turn he'll move down. The other military, he's incapacitated 5. Geologist, he's eliminated. Animal physiologist, he's incapacitated 3 turns. His speed is 4, so I got 1 more movement to go. See if there's an encounter here on a 6. Nope. To keep track of turns, I'll just put this marker up here on the space combat display, I'll double it as a turn marker. That was turn 1, now we're entering turn 2. And not on a planet yet, so we're choosing to do interstellar travel. Bring out the movement. We only have 2 we want to go to this planet, which is Beta. We only have 2 to go there, so we will go to the speed of 2, which costs 3 energy units. So we'll mark down 1 energy units, and down 86 now. One thing we'll have to do in these planets is start prospecting to get more fuel. See if we have any encounters. 6 encounter as we moved into this space. We'll see what that ends up being. We're all on the encounter table. Pirates. Pirates are randomly generated, and I'll set it up here. They have 1/2 d6 beams and 1/2 d6 missiles. So let's see the beams here. It's got 2 beams, missiles. It's got 1 missile, so it's good. For the amount of max damage they have, it's 1d10 plus 5 times 10. So 4 plus 5, 9 times 10 is 90 maximum damage. So I do combat as you just keep track of the distance. You don't care about the X and Y, it's just the distance. So he'll start off at 10, and then he'll potentially close during the combat. So the combat's in rounds. First round, for each round they move. So the enemy ship will always move one closer, and then our ship has the option of closing that one more, so he'll do that. So it'll end up being one closer. Firing simultaneous, you decide how many shields you can have up and how many weapons, but you have to spend energy to do that. He'll be having both his beams and both his missiles going, so that costs him 4. So he's using up a lot of energy. He's down to 82 now, and then he'll also have all four of his shields up, and they cost 1 energy unit each per shield per round, so he's eating up a lot of energy here. He's down to 78 energy units now, but he's got everything, all his defenses up and all his weapons going. And the pirate doesn't have to do all that stuff. He's got 2 beams and a missile, and it's simultaneous, but we'll see what we do first. See if any of the 2 beams or 2 missiles hit. They're at a range of 8. Looking at the space combat table here. At a range of 8, needs a 14 for a beam. Nope. 1 hit with a beam. Missiles, can't reach that far, but he's got 1 hit with a beam. And then damage, roll a 2d6. 10. Then you multiply it by 3, so 30 points of damage to the pirate. So he's down to 60 damage now. And the pirate gets to go. Beam again, 14 to hit. 19 hit. And the missile's out of range. I guess he shouldn't have activated his missiles because he's too far out. We'll see what damage he does. Do 2d6. 7. Multiply by 3. So 21 points. So from the pirate hitting, he would have taken 21 points in damage, but he has shields up, which each negate 10. He had 4 shields up, so he doesn't take any damage. Next round, he'll close in 1, and then we'll also close in 1, so they're at a range of 6. They're both wiser now. They realize their missiles are out of range, so neither of them can do that. But beams, we'll be activating both our beams for a cost of 2. We'll activate just 2 shields now to drop down 2 more. So we're down to 74 fuel stores now. Let's see what happens. First we'll go. We got 2 beams at a range of 6 now. 12 or better to hit. 15 hit. 17 hits. So 2 hits of the beam. We'll see how much damage. 6 times 3 for 1, so 18. Down to 42. The other one hits. 6 times 3, another 18. Down to 24. And the pirate goes. He's got 2 beams. He also needs 12 or better. Miss. 15 hit. 11 times 3, 33. And we only had 2 shields up, so he's going to get 13 points of damage in there. So we're down to 137. Next round, he'll close. We'll close. Missiles are in range now, so we're going to activate. We're going to have energy for 2 of our missiles and then 2 of our beams, so that'll cost a total of 4. We're down to 70 fuel stores now. Activate 2 shields again, so we're down to 68. So we've lost a lot of fuel. At a range of 4, need a 10 or better to hit. Hit. 2 beam hits. Missile needs 14 or better, so he hits. So two beam hits, 1 missile hit. First one is 4 times 3, 12. He's down to 12 points. Second beam, 3 times 3, 9. He's down to 3 points. We'll see what the See what the missile does. Missile is 2d6 times 5. 5 times 5, 25, so he's done. But the firing is simultaneous, so we'll see what he does with his 2 beams of missile. And he needs 10 or better. Hit. Hit. 2 beams hit. Missile. 14 or better. So 2 beam hits is the first beam. 6 times 3, 18. Second one. So that's a critical hit. Figure out, then you go to the critical hit table, which is here. 3 shield. So his shield has been critically damaged and he can't use that till it's repaired. So I'll flip it over to indicate the shield can't be used till it's repaired. But it was simultaneous, and his before that his shield absorbed the points, so he didn't take any damage. But in the next battle he won't have shields. But fortunately that battle's resolved because the pirate lost all his damage. And we still have 1 interstellar movement left, which will get us to the planet hopefully if we don't have an encounter. No encounter, so now we're on the planet. Move to the next turn. And this time we're choosing planetary. Since I put counters on this side of the sheet, I couldn't use the reverse side, so just using another sheet here. We have, so there's the planets. Now we're exploring beta. We want to see what environment it is. Again, a lot of jumping around charts. Roll 1d10. It's forest. And now before you decide what encounters you have, you figure out what crew you're going to put down. This is the crew teleporting down, and then you'll assign them to different missions. I'm going to go with an animal physiologist, 3 or 2 military, red shirts, botanist, medical, and then a fuel engineer, because I want to prospect on the planet for fuel since I used up quite a bit of fuel. And for the first planet Alpha, there was the mission that we determined was an investigation plant encounter. That's already been determined, but now that we're on beta we have to determine which missions are here. And it's a forest, so these are the different options. Well, 1d20, 15 sentient, plant, 5 plant, and then 9 herbivore. And then we'll also do prospecting for fuel. And assign crew to the different encounters. Of course, I'll have the fuel engineers go to the fuel prospecting. I'll have a military go to sentient. Of course, the botanist going to the plant. Animal physiologist going to the herbivore. So I got that covered. I'll have a military guy go with the herbivore guy in case it's dangerous. And then I'll have a medical go to the sentient in case that's helpful. So we'll do the sentient encounter first. First of all, determine their tech level. In this table you look at what you think their tech level is. 5. So they seem to be Renaissance, which is 5. That's your initial impression, but then you modify that based on the 1d20. 8 minus 1, so they're actually medieval. So I'll indicate that here. So I'm going to try to contact them. You go to the sentient encounter table, and their tech level is 4. So you can go different options here. They're going to start by trying to befriend. So they need a 15 or greater. 15. They are able to make contact. So they will get victory points because they made contact. But now they have to see if there's combat. They try to befriend. And now you look here. On 1 to 18 there's no effect. 19 to 20 there's combat. So there's no effect from combat. He was able to make contact and there wasn't combat, so he gets victory points. He gets 5 victory points plus the level of the tech levels, so it'd be 9 VP for that contact, for that encounter. Then we'll go to the plant encounter. On the plant encounter they have a botanist that'll be helpful. First of all, determine what type of plant it is. This chart, 5, is medicinal. And they'll have success and get victory points if they're able to successfully study the plant. And you go by this table here. They get a +2 on their rolls because they have a botanist with them. So it's medicinal. So they need 16 or better. 11. So you add 2 to that, so 13. They didn't get their 16, so they weren't successful in studying the plant yet. But since it's medicinal, there's a chance they weren't careful and actually could get some casualties from this. Roll on this table. 12. One team is lost. From that, you have one team lost, and they only have the botanist on team. But now they need to determine if he's a casualty or he's just incapacitated. If it's a 1, he's eliminated. Nope. A 6 means he's incapacitated for 6 turns. Put him up here on this track to indicate he's be incapacitated for 6 turns. So that team can't do any more. Then we'll go to the herbivore encounter. They have a animal physiologist and a military. We'll see what characteristics the herbivore has from this chart. So it's a 10. It's horned. He's going to try to trap the horned herbivore. He needs a 12 or better, and he has a animal physiologist with him, which gives him +2. He's not successful. He only got a 4. And then you see if there's casualties as a result of that. So trap. Go to this table here. 10. No effect, so fortunately he didn't lose anybody. He gets +2 for having a fuel engineer with him. He's looking at table A here. If he gets that higher or better, he's found fuel. 20. So he has found fuel. Let me see if there's losses. 7. He doesn't have any losses. And then to figure out the fuel, on table A you do 1d6 times 5. So he only gets 5 energy units, but that'll be helpful. I'll add that onto the fuel for the ship. And then in the next turns, if they stay in the planet, they can try to succeed in the ones that they failed, and they can shift their resources around to different missions. For instance, they'll put a military in this encounter, so they just have 1 in every encounter. That gives you a little bit of sense how to play. So that's Star Explorer from Fantasy Games Unlimited in 1982. It's an interesting game. It looks kind of intimidating at first because of all the charts, but once you navigate the charts, it's actually seemed to play pretty straightforward. I think it's got a lot going for it. It's interesting how it's got space movement or planetary investigations and different encounters you have to resolve. I like how they do the space combat where you just kind of think in terms of distances, so you don't have to chart all the tactics out. That's interesting. It's nice you get to choose different ships and crew and manage all that. It's kind of simplistic maybe how they do the encounters where you succeed or fail and then you see if you have casualties. I thought there would be a little bit more to it than that, but there's obviously a lot of replayability. And when you get multiplayers too, I'm sure it gets very interesting with the dynamics you have there. I'm glad I got it. It's a unique game. I'll probably give it a look at again. It's a challenge that's got so many charts that knocks down the rating of it a little bit, but it's got enough unique attributes. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Thanks a lot.